We're in a situation now where there'll be another general election in the next 2 years, without a shadow of a doubt. And the Liberals have made the worst mistake they could possibly make. They will be destroyed as a party for what they've done, because their rank and file that voted in favour of coming out of Afghanistan, their rank and file that voted against not replacing Trident, won't be supported. They can't believe it. You know, I speak to ordinary Liberal voters who are as anti-Tory as I am, right? They are absolutely depressed about what's going to happen, and this government won't last 18 months. It cannot last 18 months. And I think some of the strategists wish that the Tories hadn't gone into a coalition with the Liberals. I remind everybody in this room that if we'd have had proportional representation in this country, UKIP would have won 20 seats, the BNP would have won 12 seats, and Plaid Cymru would have won no seats. That is the representation that they want to talk about. And we're in a situation now, I can't believe this. This is a picture from the Daily Telegraph on Tuesday. I'm an avid Daily Telegraph reader, I'm ashamed to say. This is a picture of, I don't know where this prep school is, of David Cameron in the Christmas play. He's playing Harold the Rabbit. So this is Harold the Rabbit. I don't know who Harold the Rabbit is, out of Toad Hall. And next to him is Mole. And the Mole is Prince Edward. And in the third row of the school play is the Queen. And that's who's representing ordinary working people in Britain today. We're in a situation where two public school boys pretend that they disagree with the banking system. Nick Clegg's grandfather was the president of the ABN Bank, the biggest bank in the Netherlands. His grandmother was Baroness so-and-so, and his dad is the chair of the United Trust Bank. These people don't criticise banks. They live on the outcome of the banks that's taken off ordinary working people. The public school system did three things for these people. It introduced, in 1880, the apostrophe. And it drives working people mad because they don't know where to put it. Because it's been invented by the middle classes to torture the working classes. They haven't a clue where to put it. It invented the regionalist accent. You can't tell where they come from. You cannot tell where these people come from because they have it driven into them that they belong to a class, not a region. And they're taught that they run society. They're the three primary reasons for going to public school. And we've got the situation where if there's no money, why did 37 chief executives leave local government in the last 18 months with an average payout of £256,000 each? One chief executive from not far away from where I live got a £540,000 last year's salary when he left the council in 2007, and he's now earning £200,000 a year as a chief executive in London, and 1 million local government workers and have had a pay rise offered of 0%. And I keep saying to people, can you explain this to me? What's the difference between having no offer and having an offer of 0%? Mathematically, I can't see the difference. But that's the world we're now living in. And that's the world post-general election that isn't about who went here and who went there and who's patting who on the back. It's not about that. It's about real things. When you go into pubs and cinemas and libraries and talk to real people, they talk about real things, don't they? They don't talk about the rubbish that politicians talk about on the telly. And I like real things. And people don't hate the Labour Party. People hate the Labour government. They absolutely hate it with a vengeance because it represents nothing I know about. I grew up in an era, and I tried to explain this to some people who went to university and studied politics. When you knocked on the street where I came from, people didn't say they voted Labour. They never gave that answer. They said, I am Labour. That's what I am. What are you in this house? Do you vote Labour? No, we are Labour. And I spoke to the Green candidate in the Calder Valley, which went Tory. It's a constituency just passed between Halifax and the Pennines. And one or two sort of social worker type Labour Party members in Hebden Bridge said, well, them sort of people don't exist anymore. And the Green candidate says, I'm sorry, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. Because when I've knocked canvassing for Greens, that's what people say. I agree with everything you're saying, but I'm sorry, we're Labour. He said, we are Labour here. The debate's going to be about this. Do we want a banker's agenda or a worker's agenda? That's the only debate in Britain at this moment in time. And that's the debate that's going to take place in the unions and in the Labour Party. And people will be watching this election very closely, because I am getting absolutely hammered by full-time officials. Don't need to go into the ins and outs. Some of the people here I know quite well will know them stories. But they hate lay officials. They hate people who represent the workforce. They like the political elite who discuss things over expensive meals and decides what happens to working people. I believe in inclusivity. We have to include people in what's going on. And I mean that everywhere. If I win the General Secretary election, and I say this now openly, I've been a member for 36 years of this union, and I've never lost an election. I have never, ever lost an election where the members vote. It cheers me up and depresses some people. If I win this election, it is as of nothing if the union doesn't change. It means nothing. Leaders should not be followed. They should be kept on short reins. That's what leaders are about. They give leadership and take instructions. That's what they do. And we've got to campaign in the unions for lay leadership. We've got to return for regular elections. We've got to return for accountability. And the one thing that we've had in our union branch, Kirklees, which is the fourth biggest union branch in Unison, with 11,500 members, absolute immediate right to recall of all officials. They can all be replaced by a democratic system at 24 hours notice. We've got to have that, because what we're in danger of getting is cynicism about representation. That's what the Moat House is about. Isn't it amusing that even the class-ridden nature of society reflects itself in fiddling? The rich are fiddling moat houses, and the ordinary MPs are fiddling overnight expenses in hotels. There's even a class nature to fiddling. But ordinary working people are cynical, and they've every right to be cynical about what people have done to them. And they're wary and they're cautious about trusting people, because they've seen it all before. They've seen people who promise the earth and start off with giving the earth to themselves. And what they're going to do now, which is what they've been doing for the last fortnight, is working out what parts of the public sector they are going to carve up. Because they're not going to cancel Trident, and they're not coming home from Afghanistan, and they're not going to build nuclear weapons. And they're going to rob the earnings of ordinary working people. And they tell us about the bad old days when Cameron's family and Clegg's family made the money. They tell us them days are gone. They're not gone. Children still go down the mine. People still die of thousands of work-related diseases. They just don't do it in this country. Because of transport, they can do it in Colombia and India and China. The ruling classes live on the same wealth that they've always lived on. Just that cheap transport costs mean they can do it elsewhere. And what stops them doing it here? Organised labour. That is the only difference. And that's the theme of my campaign, is organisation. It's got to be about organisation. It's not about having fancy chats in curry houses and pizza about putting the world to right, even though we all do that. It's about organising, because if that's what the working classes understand, intrinsically, working class people join a union for one reason, because they will be better off together than they would be apart.